Good evening and welcome to the July meeting of the Lents Neighborhood Livability Association. Just a short reminder that every Saturday morning we meet at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. at West Rock to clean up around their facility, in return for which they make a donation to the LNLA, which allows us to do the things that we do for Lents. So our first guest tonight is Kristin Brown, and she is the 311 Communications Coordinator. And at this point, I'll turn the meeting over to her. Thank you.
Great.
No, that's fine.
Do you want me to use a microphone?
Yep.
I can project, but thank you.
Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, good afternoon. My name is Kristin Brown. I'm the Communications and Outreach Coordinator for PDX 311. Joanna Milner is my partner in crime, and she is doing some good work for me right now. I brought you guys some swag items, and I left them at my house. And so my husband is running to drop them off, and she's intercepting them for us. So when Joanna shows up, you can give her a big round of applause because she's got some really cool freebies. Joanna is one of our customer service representatives, and I find that anytime I start talking about our program, you guys have amazing questions that I don't have answers to. So I love to always bring a customer service representative with me because they are fabulous and super duper knowledgeable about our program and about the city of Portland and about Multnomah County. So let me figure out how we're going to advance this. So PDX 311 is a phone number that you call for non-emergency reasons to reach the city of Portland or Multnomah County. We're here if you have questions, if you have some service requests, or if you need to report something. The program was built on a foundation of no barriers of entry. We're really trying to make connecting with government easy, because we know how incredibly difficult it is to do that. And we've heard from community members that, hey, my neighbor doesn't speak English and they need to get a permit. How are you gonna help them? So this program was really built on the foundation of, regardless of what access you have, what race you are, what age you are, you should be able to access help from local government. And so this slide kind of shows the different ways that you can reach us. If you are within Multnomah County, you can pick up the phone, dial 311, and you can reach our customer service representatives. We're also reached by dialing 503-823-4000 if you're outside of Multnomah County. And we do get questions from folks who are maybe in Vancouver and the cell towers ping strangely, so we've built up a lot of knowledge about the city of Vancouver. We're also available via email, and we're online, portland.gov/311. Something super exciting for us is we've expanded our service hours, so we're now available 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Oh, there's Joanna. Let's give her a round of applause. Yay, Joanna. Swag. So we've got some really cool fanny packs if that's something that you're interested in. We've also got some program flyers and some resource guides with frequently asked questions or frequently needed phone numbers if you just want to get right to the source. So as I was saying, our service hours have expanded, and eventually we'd love to get to 24 hours a day. But we don't have the capacity yet, so the more folks that call, the more that we can build capacity, the more we can be there for all of our community members 24 hours a day. Right now we have 22 customer service representatives, and many of them are bilingual, but we do have access to Language Line, which has 50 plus languages, and my advice to you is if you're sharing this resource with somebody who doesn't speak English as their primary language, let them know that if they're needing interpretive services, it takes 2 to 5 minutes for us to connect. Don't hang up. We've heard from non-native English speakers that say, oh, well, I said Tagalog, and then the line went blank. and then they hang up and they feel like they haven't gotten served. So we're really trying to emphasize that it just takes a little bit, even with our bilingual call takers. Somebody that speaks Ukrainian is probably on the line with somebody else. We've got to wait till they get off the line so that way we can connect them. We are also not reporting to the police, so if anybody is undocumented and they feel uncomfortable with calling local government, that's not something that we do. We have no dispatching abilities, so we are really truly here for information, referral, and to take reports. So I'm going to pass it over to Joanna, and this is the question we always get is, what's 911? What is 311? And then I've heard of 211. What is 211?
Hi, everyone. So we put together, Kristin has this amazing list, which is only a fraction of what we can answer. A bunch of stuff in the middle. If it's an active emergency, if you are in danger, someone else is in danger, there's a possibility of harm of any kind, call 911, never hesitate to call 911. But if what you need is you want to report something, or there's an issue and it is not something that needs police or fire, but it is something that needs to be addressed, call 311. We can take a lot of reports and get them to the right people. If we can't get the information to them directly, we will find a way to get you to the person directly. Yeah, so a whole bunch of stuff here. I checked yesterday, and as of now, we have a knowledge base of articles that we reference as we're answering calls. We're up to 1,770 articles. So we have access to a lot of information, and we are constantly trying to keep it updated. If you or someone you know is looking for social services, 211 is the best place to start. There is definitely back and forth between 211 and 311. We will often refer people to them, and they sometimes, when it's something government related, will refer people to us. But that's the sort of general breakdown. If you need social services, 211. If it's an emergency and you need police or fire right away, 911. Most other things, you can start with 311, and if we can't help you, we can get you to somebody who can.
I thought I'd thrill you with a bunch of numbers. The coolest thing to me on this slide is that 90% of our calls are answered in less than 25 seconds. So you know that if you're calling during our office hours, we're going to get to you. In May, we had close to 13,000 phone calls. We're growing year over year. Just last year, we started a public campaign. So if you've never heard of 311, cool, you're in the boat with a lot of other people, but now's your opportunity to hear it, to learn about it, and to potentially use it. They say that it takes like 6 to 8 times for humans to see something and read something before it like concretes. So I'm counting this as 1, my friends. And then a lot of people ask, like, what do you guys get calls about? And kind of far and away, we're definitely the report central. So if you see a campsite, you can call us and we'll take a campsite report. If you see trash or graffiti, we can take that report. We're answering the number for a lot of city bureaus. So a lot of the numbers that the Portland Bureau of Transportation has, we are answering the phone, and we're typically able to help you. Our goal is really to not transfer you out. We really want to make sure you get everything you need by us and our knowledge base, but obviously you're calling for a permit. We can't do that permit for you. We're going to have to bump you over to another bureau so that way you can get the expertise and the service that you need in order to accomplish your goals. And then something fun this is a mind map that we did with one of our bureaus, that if someone wanted to report a problem, how would that look? Like, what would the internal guts of that look like? And as you can see, it's quite complicated, and our whole goal is to reduce and minimize the amount of touch points that somebody who reports something has to go through. But of course, you know, it's kind of the making of the sausage, right? If you report an abandoned automobile, that there's also trash involved, those are two different bureaus. But you as the community member shouldn't have to know that. We should be able to take that information, route it to the appropriate person. So a lot of what we're doing, we are calling service innovation, where it's one touch for you as a community member, and then we're taking care of the back end. Or when I say we, I mean we the city, we the county, you know, we're really doing the internal work. And one of the cool things that we've done is these reports that you can do online that are intuitive to the information you're putting in. So like if you've ever done TurboTax or your H&R Block online, you know how you can ask questions, they'll ask you questions and the answers that you provide bring you follow-up questions. That's really a great way to take a lot of information and not overwhelm you with it, but really to guide you to the right point, so that way you are providing the correct information to the right bureau, or the correct information so that way it can be kind of routed to the correct person that's going to take care of it and handle it. Ultimately, what those nifty reports do is they allow us to create heat maps, and then ultimately that information helps us be more, not less reactive, but allow us to be more proactive in some of the work that we're doing. And it also allows other bureaus the ability to track progress and to track work and effort ongoing in specific areas. And then something else I wanted to highlight, because this was one of our first responsive forms, was requesting an ADA accommodation. If you're looking to take part of an activity or a program or a service and there's a barrier to you taking advantage of that, you can file an ADA accommodation for us to remove a barrier. Prior to this form, the community member, I feel like there were 43 different access points that we found for folks to file something, and it just wasn't overall effective, and that's not great. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Where we got the food tonight,
Yeah,
there's sidewalk blocking there. Could I use this form to report that?
there's a sidewalk blocking.
There's campers all,
It's on.
there's campers all along there that are blocking the sidewalk where the cart sets up for this food here.
Yeah.
Can I report that through this form?
Yep, you can. We're going to ask you exactly what the location. Oh wait, Joanna.
You can report it. I would say this, not this form, just because it's not per se city program, service, event, or activity. Call 311, report it to us. We'll get it to the right people.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I'm going to follow up on Charles' question with several of my own, including making a 311. I don't need that. Including making a 311 report right now. You guys are included in the ADA settlement for the city of Portland, and I think when people are going to call 911, they have the expectation that something is going to happen, and I don't know how you are going to demonstrate results. So now I'm going to make my report on behalf of this community and the reason that I'm here. The first time I came out here, I was told about a transit stop that is so screwed up that it is unusable by people that live here. I promised I'd go to ODOT, and I did. They said talk to TriMet. I went to TriMet. They said talk to ODOT. Right now, the thing, unless something's changed, is still unusable.
It's not changed.
You got agencies going like this. You're only going to get to palm something off so many times without results that people can see before they lose confidence in you. So other than just taking my report, what are my expectations that you're going to drive a fix to this transit station that is right now and has been for some long period of time unusable
And dangerous.
and scary?
I can tell you from 311's point of view, all we can do is take a report. We don't have the ability, we're not policymakers, so I appreciate the concern, and I'm sorry, but I'm not responsible or part of those bureaus.
You're doing it. I mean, the people in this room, I was in the legislature for 20 years, and the people in this room and the people that I served in my district, are starting to get really cranky about no results. They don't want to file reports where nothing happens. They're looking for an answer. And if every person in this room calls 311 and complains about that transit stop, does that give you enough horsepower to go to TriMet or ODOT and say, stop passing the buck, fix this?
What we can do is we can get the reports and the information to the people who we think most have the power to do anything about it. What they do with that is beyond what we have control over.
Well, if they do nothing, they're cutting you off at the knees. And anybody in this room can give you the report about that transit station, and I'd like to publicly request that Shar invite you back to see if you've been able to effectuate any result.
Well, I think this is a really good distinction. We're the front desk, so we're taking reports for people, but we don't have dispatch abilities. Our job is to get the information, and as Joanna said, cycle it through. So I know that's not easy, and it's not a great answer, and it's not what you want to hear, but that is what our program, just specifically 311 is information referral.
When you
and
escalate
reports.
something, what does that look like? Like, and who does it go to?
We take reports. Our job isn't to
So
escalate
you're putting
things.
it into a computer, and then you might put, this is kind of a big deal, and then that's it. Is that right? Like, what's the escalation? Because you said, well, all we can do is talk to policymakers. What does that look like?
I mean, it depends on what sort of report it is. For
Let's
instance,
talk about
if
this
you do
metro one we just talked about.
Okay.
When does that get escalated? What does it look like?
I mean, if that, excuse me, if that is not city-owned land, I'm not sure what I could do. At the point that if you told me that ODOT was not being, accommodating, I would probably look up the state ombudsman and see if I could get you there to at least do your complaint.
Yeah.
I have no control over what ODOT does, but I can figure out who to talk to at least, make that known. We are, like Kristin said, essentially, we're front desk. We want you to always be able to get a person. We want you to get the information to us as easily and as simply as possible. We are not the entire government. We are the ones who try to get you to where you need to go or get that information.
So I want to say that your 311 has been excellent, honestly, excellent. So I want to start there. What I think we're asking, and you just had, former Senator Kristin Johnson ask you, she took her time to come here because she's so concerned. What we're saying is, tell us how we get a result here, because we have people here that are literally being terrorized. So, are you prioritizing it, or I think that's the question. I'm sorry I got involved in this question that Betsy asked, but I'm just saying, like, how do we help people? What can we do for you that you'll be able to help us more? And in addition to that, are you keeping the statistics on how many people are calling about these hotspots and how often? And does this pile up so that somehow something gets made a priority? And that it doesn't just go off to ODOT and then back to TriMet or whatever.
That's one thing I have noticed with 311, because I've been using them over the website because I find the website to be useless. The Portland Reporter, whatever
Oh,
the heck.
PDF.
Reporter is different than
It is.
311, is that right?
It's not theirs.
We use PDX
They use
reporter
it.
to take your reports.
Yeah, but it does seem to be more effective when they file it, in my experience, versus me filing it. And when I call, I get somebody right away, and they'll tell me, like, oh, we've heard of that. Or they'll say, oh, I thought that was cleared. And then I can update them. Hasn't been cleared. This is the current status. And I do find it to be, this weekend, we have a really bad camp on Burnside, and it got tagged within a day. And it was because of 311 reporting. Because it had been reported. And it was as soon as, like, I had my daughter call, and I called the same day, and they're like, oh, well, so, because it has a history in that intersection, and you do seem to keep track of that.
One of the things I will say at 311 that we've started doing is trying to getting people to the parts of the website that do show. For instance, there is, I don't know if everybody knows about this, There has been for almost a year now a dashboard of campsites that are reported, when they've been removed, if they've been removed, when they've been cleaned. All of that is public information. Our reports feed into that immediately. The impact reduction program, their reports feed into it after they go out and do things. There is a lot of information that's available. It is hard to find.
Yes.
And so part of what I think we're doing, being kind of frontline of the city, is also, you know, saying, look, if you want to keep, you know, track of this, or if you want more information, you can always call us, but let me tell you where else you can see this, you know, whenever you want, and be on top of it. And we are constantly learning about, like, sort of public maps that we didn't even know existed. And so, I mean, we can get the information on, we can tell you where to find any information we have, we can be transparent with everything we know. But yeah, fundamentally what we are doing is getting that information. I think one of the reasons with reports, it is the same as PDX Reporter. We're gonna know if there are nuances, if there are different things going on at the site, we're gonna know what different reports to write. So that might be 3 reports when you would be sending in 1, because we know that there are different, you know, there's one group that's in charge of abandoned cars, and one group that's in charge of cleaning, and sort of making sure that different people get what they need.
And if there are more reports for a given site, does that get more attention more quickly?
No.
So, how do you prioritize?
The multiple reports come in handy if something has changed. Yeah. I mean, we don't prioritize, the impact reduction team prioritizes. We get them all of the information we're getting from people. They go out and do the assessments and do evaluations. So, I mean, I think it might be worth, you know, talking to them, checking out the dashboard, but that is what we do, is make sure that any information you need to get out or get to somebody, that we get it to the right people. The steps after that, we don't prioritize anything. We don't put any question, you know, above anything else unless it feels like it's an emergency. What we want to do is give everybody the same access equally, so you don't have to know how to navigate the system to get to, you know, to the services you need.
The impact reduction team decides then how to prioritize things?
Yeah, and actually, what?
Who watches over them? Who do they report to? Who are they under?
They report to the mayor.
To
The mayor.
I have a question. I'm still confused between 823, 4000, 211, 311. Is 211 just social services?
Correct. Yes.
And then, but I always call it 823, 4000.
Which is fine, because now that routes to 311.
Oh, it does.
Basically, 311 is what happens when they took the 823 4000 number and said, what if we made this bigger, had more information, whereas before it was just kind of, oh, we will just look up a number and get you there. Now they're giving us more information, we have access to take reports, so you can call either number, 823 4000 will always work, but it's going to get you 2311 now.
311, oh, okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
I have a question. What's the difference between you and that one point of contact? What is the difference between the two of you? One point of contact.
Yeah, my understanding, one point of contact, I think, is for shelter and housing.
Well, they don't seem to do anything at all anyway. They take a report, same as you, nothing gets done. I'm just wanting to know what the difference is between one point of contact and you guys. Other than the fact that you say you answer your phone, I can be on hold with them for 45 minutes.
I might not understand what you're talking about, because my understanding of the program that I know that I think was called One Point of Contact was for people who needed shelter or housing to be able to call one point, which was at the time 211.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
For people on the street that are blocking the exit and entry into my property, which is dangerous for my employees and my customers, the stuff that they have strewn all over the sidewalk, the cul-de-sac that it looks like, you know, third world country back there. And all they do is take a report.
Yeah, I would call 311 because that is
That
a
would
we'll
be
get to
better,
the city
faster
program.
avenue to do?
I can't speak for them because I'm not entirely sure what that program is, but I can tell you if you call us, we will get a report in right away.
Thank you.
I have a question. I saw an article a while back, and I don't know if this is on. It's not. It's not. I saw an article a while back about moving, I believe it was 311 to AI. Is that still on the table? Are you guys working through that, or how will that work?
Sure, because you're better at explaining it.
There was some confusion with the media, and we're looking to clean that up. So the conversation about AI or a phone tree was really in the use of, there's a phone number for the police dispatch, and that is 823-3333. And so 911 call takers answer your 911 phone calls, and they also answer that police dispatch number. So they're doing double duty, right? Because they have the ability to dispatch. So what they're doing as a temporary trial is doing the AI or the phone tree for that 3333 number.
For the non-emergency.
For the, yes.
Okay.
To see if they can route people to the correct area or the correct person. And actually 311 is an option off of that phone number. So we're trying, in an effort to help alleviate the call hold time for 911, we're trying to take those non-emergency calls because people are using the dispatch number and they're also using 911 for McDonald's doesn't have my sauce, or just random things. So if we can answer that phone call, we would much rather take it and alleviate some hold time for someone
So do
who's
you know
having
how
an
the
actual
AI is
emergency.
working? Is it working? Or do you know if it's working?
They're in the trial phases of it, so I think it's being implemented, and I think they're going to check it out for a while and see if it works. So one of the things, yes sir, Sonny.
Sorry. So, what number should I call? If the guy lay down, sleep, have a bunch of garbage, lay in front of the door. Who I call? 911, 311, or 211?
You would call 311 to report it. If you were feeling threatened, if your life was feeling threatened.
I saw he lay down and he had a needle. I don't want to go talk to him, but he lay there, I cannot open the door.
Yeah.
I have to tell him that I need to get in.
If you think that he might be in distress, call 911. Better to err on the side of 911.
So
I would say if somebody is unconscious and you see a needle, call 911.
Okay.
Anything that you
I
think.
call 911, they don't come.
Yeah.
They don't stop their other shit. They say, did he or she have weapon? You think he's going to kill someone? They all ask like that. And I say no, no one show up. If I say yes, they probably come in.
Yeah, I think in that
See what I'm
case,
saying?
I would, it's more likely the paramedics would come than police. Because there's not immediate threatening behavior. We don't, the people who enforce law are the police. Nobody else can.
So calling you guy 311 doesn't make any difference.
Calling us makes a difference in terms of looking at the campsite, seeing if we can offer services, seeing if we can get it.
So in this case, I should call 911 instead of calling you back.
I would call 911 because what you described was somebody who might be in medical distress, and then I would also call 311 about if you didn't think that he was in any distress, just call 311.
He does have distress.
But but I do tell people that if you're unsure, if somebody, people will say, this person doesn't look well, I'm not sure what's going on, err on the side of 911. If it's just, there is this person camping in front of my place and I need something, done about it, I need to report it, call 311. We can't dispatch, that is the biggest thing, so if you think you need to talk directly to a police officer or a firefighter or a paramedic, call 911. Anything else, for the most part, you can start with us, and if we can't help, we'll get you
One
something.
other question before I let you go. Wow. My people ask, how do I get more information out of this business meeting if I cannot make it? They wonder, do I have any sort kind of paper, what report, summarize what's going on? how is it gonna track on it?
That I hand out.
Yeah,
You have a handout?
And if we don't have a language, if you like us a different language, I can email you a brochure.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'll do you that.
The LNLA also posts its meetings, right, Sharon?
Oh, yeah, I post all our meetings.
On YouTube on video.
Well, this recording will be on YouTube.
So, to get, I think can everybody hear me?
Yes. We can hear you.
So, to get the information from this meeting, the people who organize this group, they record everything, and then they post it on YouTube, and I think it's through the link also through the website, right?
Yes.
Through the Lents Neighborhood Livability Association, or LNLA. So anyone who couldn't be here can watch everything that we've seen, get the information, and hear me ramble on.
Thank you for the advertising.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep scooting along because I know we've got another speaker, but we wanted to call out extreme heat that's going to be upon us, and kind of wanted to show the differences between 211 and 311. Actually, this is Joanna's slide. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So if you need to know where to go to get cool, if you want to know are parks working, are swimming pools open, are the splash pads on, or you see that the splash pad is not on and you want to find out if that's going to get turned on, or tell us that it has broken. If you want to know about service impacts, for instance, trash service will often start very, very, very early in the morning when there's extreme heat, so they can hopefully get done before it gets really hot out there. Trash service programs like the cooling equipment program, which you can request cooling units if you are low income. So those are all things to call us about. If either you need a cooling shelter, or you see someone or know somebody in your neighborhood who needs a cooling shelter, and particularly if they need transportation to that shelter, that would be 211. Anything that's sort of, a social service need. And again, one of the things I tell people is, if you're not sure and you call us, if we think that 211 is more suited, we'll just transfer you to 211. But yeah, that is sort of the general breakdown. If somebody needs assistance for like health or safety purposes, that's going to be more 211. Anything else, call 311.
So I have, can you tell me what is an excessive heat? Is it over 90 degrees?
What is the county health department has?
Do you know?
There's it's partly temperature, it's partially, I think, how many days in a row it's going to be hot. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but call 311 and you can look it up.
You'll look it up?
Yeah.
Okay, I've always wondered about that, because it only says 92 tomorrow, so I'm just curious.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that hot.
Yeah, I don't think they've called an emergency yet, have they?
Okay.
So I'm going to scoot through this just to give you guys a heads up. There's going to be some bilingual advertisements on Univision explaining the differences between 911 and 311. And part of the campaign is really to help discern what is an emergency, what's not an emergency. And Sunny did a fabulous job of explaining a situation that is questionable. And so, we don't have this rigid definition, because every human is different and every incident is very different. But also, KGW is going to be doing a spot on Monday. So if you watch KGW, you'll probably see one of our customer service representatives talking about 311. We did take a lot of questions. Char, I want to make sure we're on schedule. I don't know if we have any other. Yes, ma'am.
So on June 29th, I called 311 because I was told that you take care of homeless in tents rather than Peabot doing RVs and cars. So there is, I guess nothing has happened. There's like 4 tents down by Indian Creek, which is 101st and Knapp Street. They have a fire pit, they're making themselves really cozy there, and I'm afraid they're polluting that little creek and all that, and they're still there. And I don't, do I need to call again? And report it?
Yeah, I mean, we usually say go ahead. I mean, for as often as we want. We recommend once a week because then they can keep on top of changes and keep going out. The other thing, though, is if you're not seeing changes and you want to know have they been out and assessed what has happened, call 311 and ask us to transfer you to one of the impact reduction program coordinators. You often have to leave a message, but they are great about getting back to people. They just are sort of on the phone all day. The easiest way to get them is just to go through us. We can transfer you to the coordinators. You can tell them about the particular site you're concerned with, and they can talk to you about what is going on.
I call 911 because they've had nice fires going there. And I tell them, it goes up that little door, my house is there. So, you know, no, you don't need to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think we'll distribute some
Okay.
flyers while the next person's up, and so
All right.
just tell us if you want it.
Thank you for the great presentation. Our next guest is Nathan Vasquez, the Senior Deputy District Attorney for Multnomah County, and perhaps our next District Attorney.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for having me here this evening. I really appreciate it. Just the opportunity to talk with y'all, connect with you. And I want to start off by saying, you know, for presenters with 311, thank you. I know that you guys have a tough job getting this out to everyone, and I appreciate that. And one thing that struck me is we're all looking for solutions. And things like that transit spot on 92nd and Flavel, that sounds terrible. And I want you to know, it's something that I'm a practical prosecutor, and so I started off while we were sitting here, I supervised the TriMet deputy, so I talked to him about, can we do a mission? Can we have an impact on this? His answer, of course, immediately was yes. So, you know, I can't promise that we're going to change it immediately, but I can tell you that we're going to work on it, and we're going to get out there, and we're going to actually try to do something, because I know that's what this community is yearning for and wants, is to see real change, someone really stepping up. So, to begin with, my name, again, is Nathan Vasquez. I have been a prosecutor for over 20 years. I've served this community. I've worked a lot out in Gresham. Actually, right in law school, I started as an intern, and I just fell in love with being a prosecutor because I love being a public servant, helping people. And for those of you that, you know, haven't had a lot of experience with the criminal justice system, a prosecutor is just that person that he represents the victims in court. He brings that case forward. He makes sure that there's accountability and justice in our community. He makes sure, or she makes sure, that that individual defendant who's committed a crime is held accountable. And that's what I do every day. In fact, in those 20 years, I've done everything from, I've been down in the kind of handling the lowest of low traffic all the way up to aggravated murder cases. And that's what I do a lot of these days is murder cases. In fact, sadly, tragically, I was here just on Sunday night over on 174th at that homicide that happened there. So what you're going to get with me is a real practical prosecutor who is invested in this community, who is here to work, who is here to really represent the victims and the neighborhoods. And so I'm here, and people ask me regularly, why are you here? Why are you running against your boss? And I'll tell you, it's because I believe our community has become really unsafe and unrecognizable. And that's a sad place to be. And I couldn't sit by in my job and do that and be a part of public safety and feel embarrassed by what was happening in the realm of public safety. I know that we can change. I know we can work together to make Portland and the Lents neighborhood a much safer and a much better place than what we're feeling right now. And so tonight, what I'd love to do is have a conversation, answer your questions. I'll tell you that, you know, I'm running against my boss. The election is in May, but I'll give you kind of my 3 big points, and then answer some questions. You know, here they are. They're very straightforward. I believe first and foremost in neighborhood safety, and that's something that we need to do kind of really block by block, neighborhood by neighborhood. The solutions out here in Lents are a lot different than they are downtown. And that solution only comes when law enforcement is working with the district attorney's office, is working with community members, is working with our city officials, our bureaus, and doing that together in a collaborative way for each individual neighborhood with the input of that neighborhood. And so that's number one, neighborhood safety. Number two, I am a strong believer that we have to reform and change Measure 110. I think it is destroying our community, and it needs to change now. We are experiencing it every day. When I pulled up out here, sadly, I saw an individual who was on the nod, and I look at that and I think to myself, why? Why are we doing this? We can do so much better. Why would we not want to be in a place where we can actually help individuals get into treatment and to do the things that they need, to get the tools they need to get out of this situation that's right out in front of our front doors? I am not someone who wants to sit by and watch people slowly die. It's a horrible thing. And if we can't come together as a community to do better, then I don't know what we're doing in public safety. So that's the second reason I'm running. The third is that I believe in accountability. And sadly, in the last 3 years, we have become literally no rules Portland. And that is unacceptable. So we need to get to a place where we don't have a revolving door of crime, where you don't have people coming in and out of the jails, even before they even have a chance to get to court. They're back out on the street, smashing windows, stealing, committing assaults. These are all the things that we are experiencing in our community right now, and we need accountability, and we need to demand that. Those are my three things. I oftentimes am accused of being a little bit too wordy, so I've learned to pull back from that and say, I want your questions. I want to answer those, because as a practical prosecutor for the last 20 years, I'm here as a public servant wanting not just your vote when it comes May of next year, we're a long ways away. I want your support. I want you to be the people that are saying, our community demands better. And this is the person that's going to be here to help deliver that to us. So, with that, I'm happy to take some questions.
Now you're always down.
That's all right. That's why I wanted to be short, because I knew you had a lot of questions. Where would you like me to start?
Wherever you want to.
Go ahead.
All right, real quick question. I know that the DA's office does prosecute, but I've also seen cases where maybe they're prosecuted and convicted, but then the judge has a lenient sentencing. How could we mitigate that type of thing?
Well, it comes first and foremost with a district attorney's office that is standing up for victims and pushing hard for that sentence. Mm-hmm. And certainly the everyday prosecutor that's in the office right now, my colleagues, we're in there fighting hard, but your elected DA is undercutting that. And that is what's so difficult. What you're seeing, whether it's in commutations where they're releasing murderers, or in cases where they're going to the legislature to just reduce penalties, that's unacceptable. As the elected DA, that person has an opportunity to go and stand up to things just like this and fight for really more justice for our community. You're not getting that now, but with me, you're going to get that.
But my question is, what about the judge? If the judge if you prosecute him or her for committing a crime, and then the judge says, I sentence you to 1 night in prison for murder.
Certainly. So there's two ways. One is, if you don't like a particular judge, they are an elected official, you can vote them out. That's one. So that's certainly one direct way. The other way is if they're not following the laws and the sentencing, then the DA should be appealing that. The DA should be taking action against that. So those are the two ways on that. All right, let's go. We'll start and we'll work our way back.
Well, because we've slid so far, we have demoralization of the population of Portland, who don't think it can come back, actually. It just seems to be getting worse. And two, they keep saying we don't have enough funds for enough cops, and that the DA's office is underfunded. So first of all, how are you going to manipulate the government to get more money? And number two, what's the first thing you're going to do when you win?
Okay, so what you're talking about, what you're talking about is we have a crisis of confidence in our community, right? It is police aren't showing up, the DA's office isn't doing its job. So the first thing I'm going to do there is that I work extremely well with our law enforcement. I'm going to partner and collaborate with them to actually start bringing more cases forward. So that's number one. When you talk about the overall issue about money and public safety, one issue is actually there is money for police officers, we just can't get them here. Because the sad reality is we've made it so so uncomfortable or so unwanted for our officers that we're having a hard time recruiting them. And when you have a DA that really makes it so that they look around and say, why would I want to come to Portland and be a police officer? Because that DA might prosecute me. It makes a very unwelcoming environment. And so that's another huge thing is once we vote and we bring forth change, we get rid of certain city officials who maybe are out constantly railing against the police, and we put in better of our city leaders, and we elect a DA who's going to actually work with law enforcement, you're going to see that change. But day one, what you get from me is you're going to get collaboration with police, and that's going to have an immediate effect on what we're seeing in public safety.
Can I tell a story?
I love story time.
The reason he's here tonight is because of Randy Teague. Is it Teague or Tige?
Tige, yep.
Tige, who used to work with him and told me what a great guy he was. Said you need to get him out to your meeting.
Yeah. Sergeant Tige.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we all miss Sergeant
Yeah.
Tige. He was the East Sergeant, NERC
Yeah.
Sergeant, and what I always appreciated about him is that he and I worked so great together, and he was a doer. I'd be sitting in East Precinct, a call would come out over the radio, and he'd be like, jump in the car, let's go. And we did. And it always felt like when there was a situation to be dealt with, he was the one that would make it happen.
Yeah.
You, sir. Yes.
This building, every window in it has been broken out at least once, maybe twice or more. If you look on the front of the building, there's bullet holes in the siding on there and on that side. A couple years ago, the neighborhood association had a meeting with the people that were interested and the police. And they tried to pin them down on what they're going to do. They had cars were lined up on this whole side of the street. They had bicycles lined up over there, stacked up to the top of the fence. You know, of course they had bought every one of those, you know. But so we asked them what they're going to do. What can they do? They said, well, it's the attorneys, it's the judges, okay? They don't respect them, they won't prosecute them, they just send them out on the street. So why do we waste our time? You know? And so they said, why, you know, they say, well, why don't you enforce, there's, 2-hour parking on that street. Why don't you enforce that? Because we want to keep our jobs, okay? I like your platform, young man. I hope I hope you keep your word. And I hope that we can vote you in. But the church next door, somebody ran one of the homeless guys off of camping on the other side. You come back in the morning and every window in the basement of that church was broke out. And those were leaded glass windows. We've spent literally thousands of dollars here. Does the community want us here? We want the community. We let the neighborhood association use this facility. We appreciate them being here. But do you want us here? Because after a while, the risk management doesn't pencil out. So we need to have something done. And I know that I don't want to kill the pet messenger, but we're frustrated.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay? What can we do? You know, like Sonny was saying, they find needles all over this place. We find bullets in the parking lot that they think that they get paranoid and they think there's a cop coming through. They throw the bullets over into the parking lot because, you know, they're scared. And anyway, actually, that looks terrible. That's the cleanest that street has been in a long time.
I believe it.
Okay, and that's horrible. But we need help, my friend. And we're not the only one in Portland, because I drive around Portland. Our city needs.
I hear it from neighborhood to neighborhood to neighborhood.
We have a bad rap, and everybody's saying, "Get out of Portland." Okay.
Yeah, we do have a lot of rats coming LAC, big rat.
Yes.
I mean, egg rat.
It is. It's unsanitary. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Every single night I watch the video. There's a car there for 2-3 hours, and then another car come in, exchange doing something, and then they left.
Yeah.
I mean, especially on the weekend.
Well, and
coming in more.
what you're both saying is, you need a leader to come forward and say, this is unacceptable. We need our officers to be able to work these cases, that we need them to feel like they have the confidence to get out of their cars and do this job. And that's what we need. We need that leader. And I'm telling you here tonight, that's the leader that I'm going to be for the city of Portland and for Multnomah County.
What happened to the sign 2 hours? There's no one come and give the ticket when they park there for day and day.
Yes.
No, I don't see that car come out anymore.
All right. Where would you like to go? Here.
I just want to say real quick, what we can do, if we love our city, if we want safe neighborhoods, is vote for Nathan. And tell all of our friends, and tell them to tell all of their friends, and knock on doors, and let's guarantee that Mr. Vasquez will be the next DA, so that our police can do their job, and that we've got a prosecutor that will do his job, because the prosecutor today, he refuses to do his job, and Mr. Vasquez will do his job. So that's what we must do. We must get him elected, and it's our job to guarantee that he's our next DA. Because if he's not, we're screwed. Nothing will change. We've got to get him elected.
So he has to be here next month?
Okay, in the back. Yes.
So I have several close friends who have been sober long term, but they started out in the streets, theft, prostitution, as low as it goes. And the way that they ended up getting sober was they got thrown in jail. And when they were in jail, they were detoxed with medical care, right? And then through NA, AA, other volunteers, etc., got involved with groups, found support, and then had a bridge from there to halfway houses that required UA to stay clean, or you're back in jail, etc., in order to keep the process and a pathway that can actually help people transition. But it starts with, as they say, a nudge from the judge, which is not happening. So I don't know why everyone is so against. I mean, I understand Measure 110 really screwed things up, but if that were to be reversed and laws could be enforced, and we had the supports in the prison systems, or jail, or however you want to describe it, or both, right? Jail and prison are the same, I guess. But how do you feel about that, as jail being the starting point?
If you have a prosecutor that has the background and the experience to know how to do that, then absolutely. Because what you need to do is create that system where you can identify those individuals that are struggling in our community, and then you can have them come in for what you're talking about, that sobering up time, and then have the experience and the knowledge to then do the connections and pathways into treatment. Because as you're saying, right now, that doesn't exist. All we've seen is our drug user addiction population explode. And we don't have a mechanism currently to give them that nudge. And that's where we need to see that change, right? It comes everywhere from community courts to what used to be our drug courts, which helped a lot of people. And those are not existent right now, and they need to come back. But you need that prosecutor that's going to say, I demand this. This is what our community needs.
You have to have it.
So I am someone that is all for trying to connect people with the tools that they need to get off the street, to get into treatment, to get their lives back on track.
Even there being, okay, we're going to jail.
Accountability and compassion are not exclusive. And that's what we should all be saying is demanding. We want compassion and accountability.
I guess to kind of build off that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I read that you were pushing for court-mandated rehabilitation in some cases. On the topic of accountability, how are you proposing that be followed up? I mean, in many cases, like felony drug possessions, you would have a PO. So how would that be followed up in the case of court-mandated rehabilitation? Would there be check-ins, urine tests, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, so right now, we've eliminated that, right? That's where we are right now. We're at 0. And so what my proposal is to start us back to the path of accountability. Yes, whether it is an addiction court where you have, whether it's caseworkers or POs that are checking in, following up with accountability, making sure people are following through with treatment. Because I'm a firm believer that without the accountability, we are not going to see this change. So it is about accountability.
So is that something the DA really can do that he's just not doing? Holding the police accountable for, well, not holding the police accountable. Encouraging the police to report so that he can then prosecute?
Yeah, I mean, so what you're asking is, what is the role of the elected DA in this situation, right? Well, I'll tell you what happened in the past and what I would do much differently. So what happened in the past is Mike Schmidt came in and said, I'm advocating for Measure 110. He pushed hard for that. He got rid of it. And as soon as he did, even before it was enacted, he eliminated our drug courts.
Right, I was wondering if our drug courts were gone.
They're gone.
Okay.
They're gone. Now, as the elected DA in Multnomah County, we're obviously the largest community in the state of Oregon. So that makes you really one of the absolute top law enforcement officials in the state of Oregon. So you have a real opportunity to be at the forefront to make change happen.
Right.
I can't do it on my own, but certainly I can have a big voice and I can have a big push. And then I can work on all the different little areas around it until we can get it changed and reformed the way it needs to be.
Why did the DA drop a case? And I'm curious, if he could have done, I think he could have done something different. I had caught a car thief and her car broke down, whatever. And I kind of got her to stick around so that I could get some pictures of her. And I got a picture of her and the plate and the tool she used to core up the ignition. And the DA was the assistant was super excited. He was like, this is great, I have all the things. But then when he went to go to court, they dropped the case because the owner of the car lived in Troutdale and they couldn't make it out. I mean, they had a huge repair now, right? Like, the car wasn't drivable. And so they couldn't make it to court downtown. And so they claimed that they couldn't prosecute. But couldn't the DA have picked that case up?
So there are always going to be challenges, and the question is, what's the motivation behind it? And can we motivate to get that person there? Can we do more? And someone that always looks at, how do I jump over that hurdle? I think there are ways, but you have to have that. One of my philosophies when I lead my current attorneys, what I show them is, I'm not just going to tell you how to do it. I get in and I do it myself, and I show them, I teach them that methodology, and that's exactly what I want to do as DA.
Yeah, I felt like our DA didn't push to get that done.
Get over that hurdle. There's always going to be a hurdle. There's always going to be a challenge. You have to overcome it.
Okay, as an elected official, will you have the authority to, let's say, purge any bad apples and as well as bring in new people into your office?
Okay, so as an elected official within the Multnomah County DA's office, there's a union, and so basically it goes up to what we call our level 4. So I cannot purge folks in that sense. I can bring in a new management team, and I can certainly direct with that new management team kind of the direction of the office. That I can do. What I can tell you is there are a lot of really fantastic attorneys still here in Multnomah County. There are. They're young because sadly Mike Schmidt pushed out a lot of our very experienced ones. But I can bring some of those back. I've already been in talks with them. I can take the young ones, which I'm doing currently, and train them. This Sunday, I had a young man that he's been in the office for about 18 months, but sadly, I can't wait. So I brought him to a homicide scene with me. I said, come on, we're going. Brought him out there, and he's wide-eyed and excited, but I'm like, this is our job. This is what we do. And I walk him through and I teach him because we do have great attorneys. They just need to be taught, and they need a leader who shows by example and does that.
Can I just add that if Mike Schmidt spent half the time taking young attorneys to crime scenes and teaching them, that he does going to conferences and screwing around going to Europe and studying the defense system of God knows where, we'd be in a lot better shape than we're in right now.
Yeah. So, I'm going to tell you a shocking fact. Not only in the last 3 years, but in his entire career, Mike Schmidt's never been to a homicide scene. He's never handled a homicide case. He's never handled a felony assault. Wow. That's a true fact. Your elected DA has not handled a felony assault. Not to mention a homicide. We're talking, hasn't handled a sexual assault. I mean, I could probably spend the next 20 minutes telling you all the things he hasn't done. So let that sink in for a second. That is your elected, the leader of this office, who is supposed to be telling these very skilled attorneys who are out, sadly, we had over 100 homicides last year. He's supposed to be telling those individuals, this is the course, this is how you do it, and has zero idea of actually how to do that, because he's never done it. Not once. Now,
how do we make that known? I'll take care of it.
In the past 3 years, he's the elected DA. He could literally take any case he wants. As the elected DA, if you work in other counties, they do, you can take any case you want. That's how many he has personally taken to court, charged, taken through grand jury. Absolutely zero.
And he got what percentage of the vote? Almost 80% of the people in Portland voted for DA Schmidt.
76%.
76.
Different time.
Yeah, there was a lot of.
But that's why we've got to do our job to make sure that Mr. Vasquez is our next DA.
Yeah.
They are. All right, let's go in the far back and we'll work our way up.
There was some mention of jails, and as you know, we have jail space that's not open, that's closed. How much impact does the DA have on pushing to have jail space open so that when we prosecute someone, we have a place where they go?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. This is where I get too wordy, so I'm going to try to keep it very concise. So we have in Multnomah County approximately 1,800 jail beds. The county commissioners only fund about 1,100, somewhere right in that range. And of that, currently, we are only using 800, so there's a 300 gap. Just 4 or 5 years ago, we were bumping up against that limit all the time and releasing people. You don't hear anything about matrix release or anything like that now. And that, sadly, is because Schmidt pushed to change how we do bail laws and things like that. And we can't even hold those people that are coming in day after day committing crime, even while they're on release for other crimes. We can't hold them. And it literally makes me want to pull my hair out because it's so frustrating, and it doesn't serve this community, and it doesn't serve victims. So what happened is, and this is where I would certainly love to talk to each one of you offline because this is where I get real wordy and long, is this. We had a certain bail system in place. Schmidt advocated and railed against it, and it wasn't that it was, the ideas behind it weren't all bad, but the lack of actually being a prosecutor and knowing how to implement something like this caused it to where now, essentially, we have a bail system that has almost zero ability to hold people. So that's where we went. We went from something to nothing.
And he can change that on his own.
He did that through the legislature. That was a lot through there. But you can actually work with the presiding court. You can, as a DA, work with them to change the policies around our local practices. That's not what's happening. Yes. And I can advocate for that other change as well.
So Nathan, speaking of the jail, there's a situation right now. I know this is not going to be the jurisdiction of the DA, but there's a situation where people are being arrested for crime and because they are being released for medical reasons. So for example, we all know that some of the crime is being committed by people that are desperately addicted to fentanyl and meth. And so when they go in, the jail's just sort of chucking them out because, well, you don't look good, so I'm gonna send you over to the hospital. The police don't have time to wait. They get chucked out for that. Sometimes they kind of stop doing this, but they'll say I just ingested a lot of fentanyl, and then they get sent over to the hospital. And then in those cases, you're not even able to prosecute these people. And so I wanted to know, I want to say this, and I've noticed this today at the county, that there are county commissioners right now that we have put in office, and they are speaking out against what's happening, even if they're not the one who has the final say. So I'm wondering, like, what can you do about that? And also, will you speak out about those things?
Yes, this is an issue that started years ago with heroin, and now with fentanyl is much worse. But it's a game that criminals will play, and it takes that dedicated, practical prosecutor to overcome it. Which is, yes, they claim they ingested fentanyl, and so they send them to the hospital. But if that doesn't mean we can't actually prosecute them. It might delay in that moment. But again, where you have a dedicated, practical prosecutor who can look through that. We used to kind of look at all kinds of inventive ways, like, fraudulent use of medical services, other types of crimes, theft, that we could use to attach that, to really attack that. There's a false police report. So all of those ways in which we can try to really beat the criminals at their own game.
The jail has a medical staff. Why are you guys there?
Because the jail's medical staff is the county medical staff, and what they say is they look at it and they go, we don't want that here, send that to the hospital.
They don't want the liability.
Liability.
And they're releasing them for, just so everybody knows, edema in their legs, which is common.
All right.
Well, part of my first question was dealing with accountability for the service resistant.
Yes.
Those who refuse treatment or counseling or whatever, they're happy with their lifestyle. We deal with this in Sumner quite a bit. You go to them, you try to outreach to them, and they just say, get out of my way or I'll F you up, and so on and so forth. What do we do with them? Now, Portland City Council is going to be undergoing a major overhaul here where there'll be more city council members on board. Hypothetical situations, say they decide, well, we like the status quo, we want social justice or restorative justice. Maybe they get in liege with county commission. Who trumps who here? I said that word, excuse me. But anyway, how would you withstand, or how would your office withstand a challenge maybe from county commission if they wanted to maintain the status quo or try to usurp your authority?
Well, the county commissioners cannot tell me which laws to prosecute. They cannot do that. They can fund me or not fund me, but they can't tell me what I can't prosecute.
Okay.
So if I'm the last man person there, I'm going to prosecute it.
Okay.
So those laws, that as the elected DA, they have no ability to tell me how to do my job.
Okay.
So that's important to know, that as the elected DA, if you are electing the right person, that person will do their job.
And if possibly we had some former city council members return or incline to social justice, is there anything within their purview that could make your job tougher?
The only thing, this is what I'll say, is that right now there's some positive signs from our city council. I'm not saying that everything's great, not saying it's perfect, but there's some positive signs. We're starting to see them start to look at things like the issues around camping during the daytime hours. There was just a brief moment where we saw maybe there was going to be some cutback on the use of drugs. And so what those leaders need is an ally in the DA's office. They need someone who doesn't come up and kind of wring their hands and mealy mouth say that maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. They need someone that's going to say, absolutely, these issues are out of control. I'm going to support you. Those laws that were passed, around the daytime camping weren't perfect, but they were a good start.
Because this week with the debacle over the supplies for drug users and whatever, and how quickly that was yanked back when it became politically unpopular, I'd hate to see you have county commission throw you under the bus for taking a tough stand on anything. Could that happen?
Well, they can certainly throw me under the bus, but you need someone with a backbone to stand up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've heard one of the excuses for not prosecuting crimes being that we don't have enough public defenders. Is that something that you've heard anything about, and how can a DA overcome that situation?
Oh, I hear it almost every day. But yes, so as a DA, there's a few different things. One is Multnomah County by far lags way behind the rest of the state in dealing with this issue. And it's because other than telling you that it's an issue, our elected DA hasn't done anything. Yeah. Now, the state legislature did just pass a major reform of our public defenders system, so in time, that will hopefully work its way through. But I'm not someone who wants to wait for in time. There are ways to deal with that now, and that should be dealt with now. The issue is that, yes, there are people not taking cases. There are lots of attorneys in Multnomah County. It's probably, I'm sure, per capita, it's the most attorneys in the state of Oregon. And other jurisdictions have been pulling those attorneys in. And so we should be taking action. We should be looking at how do we solve this. Why don't we be creative here? Not wait for things just to slowly work out.
Could I add to that for just a second? The legislature, not with my help, has continued to expand those issues that they now provide free attorneys for. And so you are paying for all kinds of cases that used to not be within the public defense system. So that's a problem. Immigration cases, for example. The other thing is that it's not a money problem, it's a management problem. Right. The guy that managed the public defenders the last time around, a guy named Lane Borg, got run off. He was a horrible manager. And there's been a desire to then want to make all of these contract attorneys state employees, which just adds to the amount of complexity that's involved. And then last but not least, the state has provided enormous money for the defense bar, but much less so for the prosecution, like flying a witness over in a case about 5 years ago from England to do a character testimony. I mean, and you got to say, why? So it's not just this lamentation about we don't have enough money. There's lots of problems there.
Yes, and I experienced those firsthand. I had a case where they flew the defense investigators to, it wasn't Malaysia, but it was like Micronesia for a case. And this is my defendant had never been to Micronesia. He had some distant relatives that lived there, and I literally looked at that and I thought, now I can see why we have a defense attorney crisis.
Yeah, we want a vacation. Somebody wanted a vacation.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right, we'll work our way back.
I hear a lot of people having issues, including myself, with the kind of revolving door justice system that's been put in place. And I want to be clear before I say this, I love everything you've said so far. But how do you think your push to lower mandatory minimums will affect that? Having people run in and back out if they're only in there for far less time.
This guy's not advocating for lower mandatory minimums.
Oh.
So what I'll say is this. I'm a firm believer in using treatment and coming up with creative solutions for individuals that are suffering from mental health and drug addiction, because I do believe in finding long-term solutions to crime. But when someone has hurt someone else, or when someone has proven that they are going to repeatedly engage in property crimes, prison is still a real viable option. Particularly with violence, where we have victims, we need a prosecutor who's going to stand up for that.
I have a question. So that sort of dovetails what I was going to ask about how you're going to, I guess, advocate or support crime victims, because I don't see much of that going on here in Multnomah County. It hasn't been since Schmidt's been elected.
No, victims have been put on the back burner.
Exactly.
And
that's not acceptable.
It's not. And what I think, if you've taken a little time to read some of the news stories that have come out, what we've seen is time and time again, victims are really pushed aside to serve Mike Schmidt's kind of social justice warrior reform agenda. And that is purely unacceptable. I can always tell you that I will always start from a place of valuing victims first. So that's what you're going to get with me.
I'm hoping that you will. Well, I'm asking a question. Will you join with the Grants Pass v. Johnson and the Martin versus Boise, and maybe go after the Ninth Circuit Court, maybe take the Supreme Court, and try to get some power back to the cities and take it away from these crazy judges?
Well, I think there's a lot there, yes. So yes, I want to see that change. But right now, it's interesting. We talk about there are so many beds and things available that's why you can start to see Portland already move into that space. It's more about why aren't we working collaboratively as a community to move people off the streets? Because those beds and those housing, it's out there. We're just not providing any motivational factor to do that. And that's the problem. We've gotten away from accountability, and now we're into this attitude of, well, you can just do whatever you want. No rules, Portland.
Can you do anything, or do you think the city and the county are on the right track with some of these new people that are addressing that, or is that something that you'll have a role in?
Yes, I think with those new individuals, those are the folks that I want to join in that effort. So, that's when I talked about how I think many of us have a fear of what's to come with this new charter reform and opening up with 12. But I'll tell you, the last few elections I've seen some good folks come in, and they're really working hard to try to change things and move it in the right direction. And that's why you see me here tonight.
When can I get one of your yard signs?
Well, so remember, here's our election cycle. I'm fingers crossed it's going to be just the two of us in this election, and so that's going to be May of this coming year. So yard signs and stuff will probably start around I'm going to say March, April timeframe. I have a website. You are welcome to sign up. I love volunteers, love folks knocking on doors. Yard signs are an absolute. And then anything else, if you want to donate, that's always greatly appreciated. It's been a very odd experience to be a candidate and have to come around with my hand out, and I'm sorry that I have to do that. But it is a situation where I desperately want to see a change, and I want Mike Schmidt out, and I want to see that, and I know that I'm going to have to raise a lot of money to do it.
What is your website? Tell us.
Yes, it's vote for, and that's FOR, Vasquez.com. And I brought some flyers in the back, too.
Yeah, and just
back, as well as my card. I'm Michael, campaign manager. It has email, phone number. Reach out to me with any further questions or needs on the campaign too.
So if you guys don't mind, I have something I'd like to say about this. So I've had a chance to meet with Nathan before tonight, and I want to say this. This whole idea that you fill out on a website and you say you want to volunteer and so forth, I think this is our election too. This is really important to us. And my suggestion is that the person in your campaign get together and we schedule a community meeting of people that want to volunteer, and we basically do one training and you guys tell us what you need. That would be my suggestion. Yeah. And in advance, you let us know you want 50 people there, 100, what type of volunteers we need. I don't mean just signs. And the other thing I want to tell you guys, and I have trouble asking for money too, so I'm going to do it for these guys. This is an election that does not have campaign limits. However, right now, it is really important that smaller donations are given to Nathan. So $100 would be really great if you could do that, and I know that he would appreciate it, and it'll sort of help move them to the next level, okay?
And Angela, let me do it for you.
Okay. Not tonight, though. Really, not tonight. Let's keep it there. No, I mean, because let's just send it there. Because Nathan, people are unsafe in this community. You guys know that I'm doing my thing. You can sometimes help me out. That'd be great. But right now, let's put it there. But thank you. I love it.
That's why we need to support her too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. PDX real. PDX real.
As a recent candidate, the most important thing that any of us can do, and it doesn't matter how small it is to write him a check. Yeah. Because volume will count. This is going to be about getting enough money that he can make an announcement that he's running with a big pile of cash in the drawer. and us getting him money is incredibly important. So I came out here tonight to tell you I'm not going to quit coming until they clean up that goddamn stuff. I wanted to come out and see Angela because I'm a huge supporter of hers, and I was delighted to come out here and say with no qualifications at all, that needs to be the next DA.
Yeah.
Sure. About who you are. I've actually commented on PDX Real to other people like, hey, Nathan Vasquez is going to be here at this meeting tonight. I actually put it up there, etc. And people are like, who's that?
I think the checks will help them market better.
It is. That's the next 5 months is starting to build, name recognition, get it out there, to push it out there.
Yeah.
I've been a head down, working hard prosecutor, not looking for the limelight for 23 years, and so now I have to change gears a bit. Not super excited, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
So did Schmidt get Soros money just for interest sake?
Yeah, it was about $60,000.
He'll tell you till he's blue in the face he didn't. But.
Yes, he does.
What's that? Can you say that louder?
Do you have any endorsements
Schmidt
yet
got
for
Soros money?
Washington County,
Yes.
who was fighting him, got a bunch of Soros money.
We'll be doing a DA party.
Schmidt is funded by George Soros. They went to Washington County. People that are going after, I forget the Washington County DA, but the last 2 elections.
Yeah, too many conversations.
I would like to invite especially both of you guys to come to Saturday the 22nd. We're having a rally at East Precinct. Okay. They change shift at 4 o'clock, so we're going to be there from 3:30 to 4:30 with our American flags, our police flags, your banners, your posters saying I heart PPB, whatever it is. I'd like to have you show up as well.
No posters yet. We're building up right now, but we'll get there. We'll get there.
All right.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all joining us. We answered all the questions. We didn't. She was told that the bureaucracy is so big and so entrenched that Mingo has no control over it.
Mingus probably doesn't know.
And they do what they want.
That is exactly correct.
Yeah, it's called Deep City.
Yeah.
It's Deep City.
I was in the legislature for 20 years. And I still don't know where all the bodies are buried. And the entrenched professional staff has so much power.
Federal government, state government, you're telling us, and now we find
And
out
my
that
sister
the
just
city
ran for
government.
office in Britain, on local council, and she said, it's the people behind it. If
Yeah,
you're
the
elected to
unelected,
council,
the unelected
it's the planning department that's the
bureaucracy.
most powerful in the city, which is probably the most.
I think we What have city does she live in?
It's Darlington, Northern England.
But that's, you can verify that, Betsy, is.
Sounds like you're good to go, David?
It's fact, that the bureaucracy controls the unelected.
It is such fact. I came from a meeting this afternoon. I was so angry when I left. There is a transit district up in
Everything's a matter
Plattsburgh
of steps.
that spectacularly failed. So the board chair came down and she was going to answer some questions.
There's a sign-in sheet over there.
She's got the 311 shirt, she doesn't need to sign in.
So I said to her,
I'll sign.
are any
You
of the
don't have
people
to. You're
that
already
she's
signed up.
suggesting that there was either embezzlement, malfeasance, fraud? And I said, are any of the people other than the board that presided over this debacle still there? Yes. I said, who? Our bookkeeper. I said, so you just collapsed the whole organization and your goddamn bookkeeper is still there, and what are you going to do about it? Well, nothing. She's learning. So then ODOT jumped up and I said, what are you going to do if there is, in fact, malfeasance? well, we don't have time to do an audit. I said, excuse me, you just pissed away the public's money. You left old ladies standing on the corner waiting for a ride that's never going to come. And you're telling me that the Secretary of State's office doesn't have time to do a forensic audit. ODOT doesn't have time to do a forensic audit. Now, Shemia had plenty of time to audit dope where she was feeding the guys the questions from the audit. But I was so angry that I called up Chris Strickler, who runs ODOT. I was talking about it, I left him a message and said, what's up with this? You pissed away the public's money, you collapsed the bus system.
Time after time after time, they're pissing away the taxpayer money, the public money. If you were governor, do you think you could have gotten a handle on this? Could you put down the hammer and say, we're not going to do anything until we have measures?
Yes, because the governor has the power of veto. And just say, I'm not going to pass your budget cuts. Now, it's nearly impossible to fire a state employee.
Can you reassign a janitor?
Can you what?
Can you reassign them to be a janitor and take away their position of hierarchy, or?
Well, some of them are at will, and the head of the transit section came down and was at this meeting this afternoon, and she was the one who told me ODOT was too busy to do it. And they just wanted these guys $200,000 to keep the thing propped up. Okay, you're putting that at risk because the same damn board and the same damn bookkeeper you ran off the out, and everybody's standing around going like this. I said to the board chair, what prophylactic have you put in place so this won't happen again? And she very quickly blamed the executive director, the head of the transit agency, and they now won wrong. So when you left from the window here. Was your sister successful in her election, or has it happened yet?
Yep, it's on now.
How big is the town?
It's only 100. We made $8,000 a month. Just gave us a seat, and she's not seen it.
Wait, wait, say it again?
Way sure and I pick restaurants as we call them.
So let's not just. Let's ask Betsy her opinion of the redistricting of the city. Oh. Yeah.
It's a prescription for failure.
Yep. And unaccountability. Yeah.
Because I can tell you that every Senate district has one senator and two councilors.
Yeah.
And they have the same.
By just unwritten gentleman's agreement, everybody stays in their own place. You're not going to have three people representing the same place. And it's going to be constantly like this. And they'll all be trying to one-up each other. And you're going to get hard feedback. And
see, that's what I'm scared of. That's what I'm scared of.
She's sitting in her little mess. But the way this set it up,
Well, supposedly it's going to start that way, right? You have to live in that area, but then what if you decide after 2 years you want to move somewhere?
Huge.
when I moved to San Francisco, we had citywide elections, and we changed the district elections while I was there. This is a good idea. And it still is a good idea, because I think there's 11 districts now, so they're not very big, and there's one representative for everything, so you know who that person is, and you can go to them with all the problems. They're responsible. They have to answer, not anybody else. They have to chase up planning and all the rest of it. The district is so big, so if there's any little, like, conservative people like in Hayhurst or somewhere, they're going to maybe just have one person direction.
Yeah, full error and number one. Yeah.
and you're going to get paid for it.
But I think it's still better.
Thank you.
I'm not the only one.
I got the story to for Fort Kennedy at her place.
I'm not going to get those to
It all is.
those
It all is.
apartments.
Would it just be,
Can't anybody answer that. I'm
were
still
they
working.
lied to, yeah, manipulated, not told the truth? There's no transparency, like Betsy said, they just waste money. Taxpayer money, not their money, taxpayer
This is
money.
working, everything's working.
And they lie.
And they spend all the stuff that we
Okay,
have.
David, so you need to pay attention.
Yeah, just drive down
I had
Division.
to write her in, she's
Or
customer
go in and
service
talk to any of the
311,
shop
so
owners.
that's
There's a
thing.
Russian
But-
delicatessen.
And also you need to ask people.
And the woman owns
No,
it.
that's Kristin.
It's just
That's
berserk.
the
She's so
communications
mad.
coordinator.
Because what they did?
Yeah, her customers cannot turn into her place.
You need to ask if people.
It's out of control.
It's a Russian delicatessen.
Because they're gonna do it at the dinner.
Okay.
10918.
I guess it can.
No, I know. Every time I go on I 205, I can look down and see. Nothing changes. The one that Betsy was gonna look into, nothing changes.
I did, and I called Trimac, and I called ODOT. And that's one of the reasons that I'm out here. I want to report back. Yes, I called. It's like this. ODOT says the city's problem. The city says ODOT's problem. Then they go right on to and say, we don't have enough touch.
No, we don't at all. We don't at all.
Oh,
And then we
speaking of
go-
that, I'll tell you, on the 22nd, which is a Saturday, we're going to have a rally at East Precinct from, they changed shift at 4, so we're going to be there from 3:30 to 4:30 with our flags and, you know, we look
I want to write that down. What day?
It's Saturday, the 22nd.
I'll be there.
And get some of your neighbors too. We're trying to get a lot of people. Well, you know, yeah.
What's that?
So you live by here?
Well, I actually.
You live by here? Is that why you said that?
No,
I'm on
I go to the gym.